Hi, I'm Michelle Segrest, and welcome to the Factory of the Future podcast.
This podcast is inspired by my 3-volume book series on the evolution of modern manufacturing. Each episode features engaging conversations with game-changing experts discussing the processes and innovations that are changing the landscape of modern manufacturing. Thank you so much for listening. Please do me a favor and leave me a 5-star rating on iTunes, and take just a couple of seconds to leave a review. And then go ahead and hit that subscribe button right now so you don't miss a single episode.
On this podcast, we talk a lot about robotics and augmented reality and instrumentation and digitalization and all kinds of cool technology that companies are using to build the factory of the future. But this week, I want to highlight an extremely innovative facility in India that is implementing all kinds of tried and true processes and ideas, but they're also implementing forward-thinking preventive maintenance strategies and complex documentation tactics to create a truly world-class facility. When you enter the gates of the Reliance Industries Limited Hazira Manufacturing Division site in Gujarat, India, you will find perfectly manicured landscaping with lush trees and bright green lawns and flower beds containing a rainbow of colors of blooms. And they all decorate the entire 1,000-acre campus of RIL. And though visitors may feel like they are at an exclusive vacation resort, deep within the beauty of the grounds, let me assure you, there is serious manufacturing at work. 27 individual chemical and petrochemical plants operate above capacity and with superior maintenance 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The Foundation for Industrial Maintenance Excellence, which we know as FIME, awarded RIL-Hazira with the 2017 North American Maintenance Excellence Award. And I'm going to tell you why. RIL-Hazira is located on Surat-Hazira Highway. It's just 250 kilometers from Mumbai. The 27-year-old facility looks brand new, and it operates at 390 megawatts with state-of-the-art equipment, technology, and automation. To keep this kind of facility operating at full speed requires world-class maintenance. I talked with the maintenance manager and reliability engineers at RIL-Hazira, and they take great pride in their manufacturing excellence and their ability to continually improve. It's just part of their culture. Each person who works there focuses on growth and improvement every single day. One of the reliability engineers told me that when it comes to their commitment to reliability, they aim for the stars and reach for the moon. I thought that was pretty cool, and that's exactly what they do. The beautiful scenery at RIL-Hazira cannot fully camouflage the high-capacity manufacturing that includes more than 4,000 pumps, more than 250 compressors, 15 turbines, 11,000 control valves, more than 8,000 motors, and more than 92,000 field instruments. All of this equipment and more is maintained at a superior level. A first impression at RIL-Hazira can be very impactful. And I'd like to think about this Solomon benchmarking study on maintenance reliability. And I'm sure you've heard of this. I'll drop a link to it in the show notes. But this study proves that the age of a facility is no indicator of poor reliability or high maintenance costs. And I talked to Kyle Braswell, who also toured the facility. Kyle referenced this study as well, and he said that he has always believed this because the data shows it, but he was a DuPont reliability and maintenance expert. And after 40 years in the business, he had never actually seen it with his own eyes, he said. He said he walked into the facility, which was built in 1989, and finally, for the first time, saw proof of the Solomon data. Now, these maintenance professionals have maintained the facility correctly all along. They are smart enough to know that it is costing them more to maintain that facility at high reliability than it costs to maintain a new facility. This is proof that age is not a determining factor for cost, reliability, and production capability. The RIL-Hazira team achieves this with 80% predictive and preventive maintenance, drones to monitor safety and inspections, exhaustive mounds of documentation, an extensive employee reward and recognition program, comprehensive training for engineers and contract technicians. Also, they do a lot of community outreach, and they have a really cool, extremely unique Corrosion Museum, and it contains samples and information about any failure that has ever happened at that site. We're going to talk about all these things today on the podcast. Now, leadership's commitment to reliability also plays a key role in the success of this facility. When they incorporate a new project, they are very good at analyzing how that project affects reliability. Reliability is a very clear discussion point in all projects. To commit to it, you have to understand it, they believe. The leadership understands maintenance and reliability's impact on production capability. In an effort to benchmark the facility's standards against the world's best, RIL-Hazira reached out to the FIME organization for consideration of this prestigious name award. And even though the award recognizes North American facilities usually, FIME agreed to evaluate RIL-Hazira. The reliability engineers at the facility really feel like they have a good standard of reliability in engineering and want to benchmark their performance to see how it measured with world-class sites. And that's why they reached out to the FIME organization. There are very few agencies in the world that will benchmark maintenance. And if you look at the global scenario for the past couple of years, there have been a huge variation in crude prices. The way to stay active in this competitive global petrochemical market is to cut down on production and operating costs. One of the critical aspects is the maintenance of fixed costs. It's essential, they believe, to have high levels of productivity. They looked at ways to bring in new technologies that would be cost effective without reducing quality in such a competitive market. The extensive valuation process for the name award through FIME rated the facility with significantly high scores. And in fact, those who evaluated it said they were some of the highest scores they had ever seen. They said that when they got there, they found they had actually underrepresented some of their performance. Some things they thought were a weakness were actually some of their strengths. For example, they only have 3 to 5% turnover, and this is extraordinary. So let's talk about the maintenance team. The facilities maintenance team consists of more than 450 dedicated professionals and is organized under different heads of engineering and maintenance. For example, mechanical, electrical, automation, civil, minor projects, and administrative. They're constantly buying new equipment, so they have to ensure that their people are trained to maintain the equipment properly. They have extensive training programs. They have a wide variety of them, with offerings for new employees to some with 25 to 30 years of experience. So they never stop training, no matter how long you've been there. Many employees are also cross-trained by moving across disciplines. The team utilizes a combination of predictive, preventive, and corrective maintenance approaches based on ACA analysis with an 8x8 matrix that is executed on an SAP platform. Now, this shows the consequences of failures and many other data metrics. Most critical is condition monitoring of all the rotating equipment. The team performs 60 to 70 preventive maintenance orders per week per plant, which they consider a key to keeping the machines running efficiently. Engineers are responsible for the technology and training of the maintenance technicians, which I think is fascinating. The maintenance technicians are 100% outside contractors. Engineers determine the inspection methodology, but the inspection is contracted to other people. The Hazira engineer lines out the work and training on how to do the work. They have a third party assessing and evaluating the capability of every contract mechanic on the plant site. Here in the U.S., there would be co-employment concerns with this kind of setup, but in India, they give all contractors the same health checkups and benefits they give their own employees. And these kinds of things just naturally translate to high quality work. The first 12 months of employment for new engineers involves a comprehensive cross-training program. A maintenance engineer within one of the units will cross-train with production, electrical, instrument, and materials engineers. They cross-train with all the different engineering disciplines to help them understand how the work they're doing integrates with the other engineering disciplines and with the production unit that they are supporting. This gives the engineers a strong footing. The guys who evaluated the facility said they have not ever seen this level of cross-training anywhere else in the entire world. Engineers are also trained on how to maintain the equipment. Engineers train the contract mechanics. Now, at most facilities, the mechanics know how to repair the equipment, but the engineers do not. Engineers follow the work in the field. The engineer gives the lineup for repair to the mechanic, and the engineer follows the work to ensure the repairs are being made in a high quality way. Contracted maintenance workers at this facility are treated like employees. Engineers work with the craftsmen, and they're involved in training, and they know how to operate the equipment. The training and assessment processes are used for their own engineers and the contracted craftsmen. There is a lot of good teamwork and good communication, and management takes a lot of effort to make sure that these things happen. At RIL-Hazira, management supports a robust incentive and recognition program. And I think this is also key to their success. The workforce is very eager to get involved to come up with solutions, even for small improvement projects. Management supports inspiring and recognizing quality all year long. It's not just a flavor of the month. The Indian government also has a recognition process, and the site participates in this, and they have a winner who actually received an award from the Prime Minister for a project on the site. Now, this is like the United States president hand delivering an award to a mechanic for a project. Now, India is a country that is trying really hard to make some improvements, and Reliance is a very significant player in all of that. The recognition is important in an area where not everything looks like the beautifully landscaped facility inside the RIL-Hazira gates. When you drive outside the facility, you see everything in a state of disrepair. Advanced technology is being used to build roadways, but you see people carrying concrete on top of their heads. It's amazing to take people growing up in that environment and train them to maintain and operate a world-class facility. Studies show that 60% of failures come from how the equipment is operated. RIL does a fantastic job of training people who grew up in a simple environment to embrace and use technology and high reliability. RIL leadership also strongly encourages innovation. They give engineers time to look for new ways of doing things. They take the time to research to find new ways to maintain the equipment. They invest in the people to search for improvements. They evaluate them and implement them, and then people are rewarded and given the time to do it. Leadership recognizes that engineers enjoy doing that and gain a lot of personal satisfaction from doing that. And leadership at RIL understands that and rewards this kind of behavior. Leadership also recognizes that not everything that is researched and tried is going to be successful. They never penalize someone for something that is researched but not used. They recognize there will be hits and misses. They learn from the misses and just keep on going. I asked the plant manager what he did to develop this kind of culture, and he said it's just how it's always been. It's how they grew up. The lead maintenance manager is a really strong leader, and it's clear the organization respects him. He knows the technology and holds the organization to very high expectations. Leadership values reliability and maintenance. Operations leadership understands the relationship between reliability and maintenance and good production. RIL-Hazira takes the incentive program even one step further. Now, this is a company that values its people, but it's not just them. It's also their families. There's a medical facility on site. Mammograms are given for women employees and the mothers of employees. Stress tests for employees are also given to the parents of employees. The family develops a feeling that they're cared for, and a loyalty naturally develops from this. The company sends medical vans out to the villages for health checks, which develops goodwill within the community. And when you have this kind of loyalty, people just naturally want to do a good job. RIL-Hazira considers its people to be its greatest asset. They have a very wide and well-established recognition program for motivating people. And they recognize people on their efforts and on their ideas. Their people are driven by key performance indicators, and they have cross-functional teams to help solve problems. They have teams responsible for quality control, and all the groups work on continual improvement goals with high motivation. RIL-Hazira incorporates a wide array of reliability and maintenance programs. What makes the reliability and maintenance programs at this site unique is the focus on maintenance excellence. The aim of the team is continual improvement toward perfection in every aspect of maintenance. Each member of the team is continuously focused on how to improve. The first goal, of course, is no breakdowns. Each failure is analyzed to the level of how can they prevent this from happening again. They ensure that the people are trained to not only fix problems, but to prevent them from recurring. They also want to stay on top of advanced technology, which is always changing, as we know. They have a team that works on smart manufacturing with the newest technology like drones, wireless monitoring, mobile apps, and many items which fall under what we usually talk about when we talk about the Internet of Things. RIL-Hazira incorporates several maintenance best practices, including shutdown management, SMP, integration of business processes, daily planning meetings, SAP-controlled maintenance work orders, failure analysis, planning and scheduling, and field studies. But they have one unique tool that I've never seen before, and the people that I talked to that evaluated the site for the final award said they'd never seen it either. This unique tool is its Corrosion Museum. This is fascinating. It's used for training, but it's also part of their legacy. They have preserved examples of all the failures that have ever happened on site. The failed equipment is displayed, and they show the failure. They show why it happened, and they show what they did to correct it. All of it's recorded. And this helps them to learn how to fix these problems and prevent them from happening again. If they have a problem on the floor, they can go into the Corrosion Museum to see if there was a similar failure that could teach them something. It's a complete history. Anyone in the facility can go in, find a similar issue, and discover how the problem was solved. There are also examples of the raw metals and resins, and there's also documentation for each issue. All these are in digitized format with a user-friendly interface. It's truly fascinating. Extensive analysis is part of the preservation. It's important to the people at RIL-Hazira that the uptime is maintained. So they take each failure seriously and do a complete analysis. For example, they found a very basic technical mistake in one of their plants. An engineer gave a recommendation to the plant, and this was communicated across the entire site. This alerts the other plants that similar issues can occur. Having this information can help to prevent the same problem at the other plants. In the Corrosion Museum, all the physical evidence of the failure is displayed in beautiful cases. Each has a barcode, and there's a corresponding mobile app that scans the barcode and then reveals the full history and reports the failure, how it failed, how it was repaired, and how it can be prevented. The displays include piping, pump impellers, valves, and other equipment. It's just amazing because when you're doing a failure analysis but haven't seen any of these mechanisms before or the results of failure, it's hard to do a really good failure mode and effect analysis. Engineers, operators, mechanics, anyone can go through and learn based on previous failures at the plant. This enhances the company's commitment to maintenance. If you properly maintain your equipment, it doesn't cost more as time goes on, and you don't lose your reliability. Many people think old equipment equals poor reliability, but it doesn't have to be that way. If you maintain it effectively, you actually save money down the road. And this is the whole philosophy at RIL-Hazira. It costs a whole lot more money to replace a piece of equipment than it does to maintain it correctly. It takes clear leadership direction and holding people accountable. Corrosion Museum is not the only way that documentation is made at this plant. Another impressive feature of the maintenance efforts at RIL-Hazira is the level of documentation that's recorded and made available. So they believe that you should not keep reinventing the wheel. You have to learn from mistakes. It's essential to document all the things that they do, the successes and the failures. So they have about 1.7 million documents on their documentation platform. Any person on the site at the switch of a button on their laptops can access any of these documents. Company-wide documentation ensures that all Reliance plant sites follow the same documentation process, and much of the documentation is already in the SAP system. Almost every job has a long written procedure. Now, this is a company that leverages learning as broadly as possible, obviously, from these examples. They have a corporate group that creates a lot of the maintenance training procedures. Procedures are standard across all the facilities. They are very good about leveraging best practices within the plant and across other plant sites. Their turnaround documentation is phenomenal, with big books on how the turnaround was executed, what was learned, the schedule, and the maintenance performed. They continue to work to improve this. There's an extensive history of everything. I mean, everything. And there's easy access to it from anywhere. Now, RIL-Hazira uses drones to do inspections at heights of 72 meters. These drones also help to monitor safety. This is another way that they are truly a factory of the future plant. Health and safety in the petrochemical industry is recognized by the department's vision to ensure safe performance, demonstrating the personal commitment to safety, engaging people in decision-making, and being transparent when dealing with health, safety, environmental, and fire concerns. The maintenance practices that aid in technology always make some innovative approaches for operation, reliability, and system safety. Remote visual inspection is one such technology that enables them to reach the goal of operational reliability with the highest attainable safety. Remote visual inspection using drones is an indirect, non-destructive technique that employs these drones to deliver clear, concise, and current visual data. The use of drones permits remote visual inspection of flare stacks, tall towers, chimneys, and structures with ease in an otherwise difficult height and environment where waves, wind, and weather place further demands on the individuals inspecting an asset. Inspection using drones negates the need for long scaffolds, and it offers a monitoring program for observations. It also reduces the breakdown situations through timely identification and evaluation of condition by planned schedules. One more thing that I want to talk about with this facility is their community outreach, because I find it is also something that makes them a true factory of the future. It is important to RIL management to do all they can to help build the surrounding communities. One notable example is a hospital that they built primarily to treat AIDS patients. There's also an emergency vehicle that patrols the area, providing medical checks and medicine to residents in the nearby villages. RIL-Hazira continues to meet India's environmental regulatory environments. The organization is very concerned with the people of India, and they're very focused on improving their country. They told me several examples of their projects. So here's a few of them. They had a cancer awareness and prevention campaign that covered all their sites. The campaign shared information on early detection through screening and provided cancer prevention tips. Also, a leading gynecologist had an interactive session on cervical cancer and its prevention for women employees. Interactive sessions were held on healthy diet for heart. Another session that emphasized the need to keep the body fit involved demonstrating stretching exercises that could be performed in offices. They had a session for contract workers on lifestyle management. They had a self-defense training course for women employees, and it was organized in coordination with the Hazira Women Council. Truck and tanker drivers were trained in defensive driving techniques. As part of this safety initiative, the company established a trucker safety training center in Hazira. The center is fully equipped with audio, video equipment to impart training to truck drivers on safety rules, efficient driving techniques, and emergency responses. More than 243,000 drivers have been trained through this initiative since its inception in 2005. So RIL has always aimed higher and committed to sustainable development that goes beyond their operating boundaries. The continuous development has led them to grow into a more evolved organization in terms of the way they select their projects. As they've been evolving over the years, so have their processes. All of their projects undergo critical and stringent selection criteria, and projects with a sustainability focus or a socio-ecological focus are always undertaken. The impact that the projects have on the economic development, product development, society, and natural environment plays a major role in their selection and is aligned with their evolution into the sustainable business environment. I think that what RIL-Hazira is doing is cool and fascinating, and it's been my pleasure to tell you all about it. This is just one example of a facility that is innovating in different creative ways. My 3-volume book series on modern manufacturing features all kinds of stories just like this, and they are real-world examples of how companies are truly building world-class facilities. RIL-Hazira is featured in Volume 1. And as you can see, there are many different ways to define the factory of the future. Tell me what your facility is doing to innovate and move forward. Let me know all about it, and perhaps it will be featured in a future episode of this podcast.
This brings us to the end of the show. Thank you so much for listening. Please do me a favor and subscribe, rate, and review the podcast on iTunes. If you have interesting information to share and want to contact me about being a guest on a future episode of this podcast, please send me an email at michelle@navigatecontent.com. You can also send me questions that I will have my expert guests answer for you on a future episode. And in the meantime, please check out my book series on modern manufacturing to read more than 30 real-world case studies about how global companies are using smart technology and innovation to build the factory of the future. All the links to the books and articles mentioned in this podcast are in the show notes. Have a great week, and please join me for the next episode of Factory of the Future.